My name is the Archivist. The year is 2030. History, we are told, is a river that flows in one direction. But the files in this archive suggest that sometimes the river has eddies, currents that fold back on themselves. Sometimes, a message from the future can be found written in the ink of the past. Today, we open a file that deconstructs such a message, a warning that traveled for 5 centuries to arrive at its destination. Welcome back to the archive. This is file number 1618, the cartographer's Cipher. The story begins at the bottom of the Aegean Sea, with the discovery of the Serpent's Kiss, the legendary lost ship of the 16th century cartographer, Gerardus Mercator II. He was an enigma, a mapmaker who, at the height of his fame, vanished while charting what he called the unseen currents of the world. Deep inside the wreck, a team of marine archaeologists found a perfectly preserved chest, sealed not with a lock, but with an intricate, interlocking puzzle box. When they finally opened it, they found no gold, no jewels. They found only one object, a small, perfect, seamless sphere made of polished titanium, a material and manufacturing feat impossible for the 16th century.
An anomaly.
An object out of time. The discovery sent a shockwave through the scientific community. It was a perfect paradox. This is where Dr. Julian Finch enters the file. Julian was a ghost, a brilliant cryptographer and historian who had once been the rising star of the NSA's Historical Intelligence Division. But his obsessive work on a theoretical, trans-temporal cipher, a code that could be sent through time, had gotten him disgraced and dismissed. He now worked in a dusty bookstore, a genius in exile. He saw the news of the titanium sphere and the puzzle box, and his blood ran cold. He recognized the geometric patterns on the box. They were from his own classified, ridiculed research. He made a call. His former handler, now Deputy Director Isabel Varga, met him in a quiet park. "Julian," she said, her voice tired. "Don't tell me this is about your ghost story." "It was never a ghost story, Isabel," he replied, his voice low and intense. "The box, the sphere, it's a message. One of them got through." Reluctantly, Varga brought him in. Julian was given access to the chest and the sphere. He confirmed his theory. The puzzle box was a temporal lock designed to protect its contents for centuries. The titanium sphere was a data storage device, but it was inert, locked. The key, he knew, was hidden in the life's work of the man who had designed the box, the cartographer, Mercator II. What followed was a hunt through history, a deconstruction of a 500-year-old mystery. Julian, accompanied by a skeptical but sharp young agent named Carter, followed the trail. The geometry of the puzzle box led them to an obscure map in a Lisbon museum, a map Mercator had made of the New World. On that map, hidden using an ink only visible under ultraviolet light, was a complex cipher. Julian, in a moment of brilliant insight, realized the cipher wasn't based on letters, but on stellar cartography. It was a set of coordinates, but for the stars as they would have appeared on a specific date in the 13th century. The star chart pointed them to a forgotten, sealed wing of the Vatican Library. And there, hidden behind a false wall, they found Mercator II's secret journal. The journal was the first layer of the truth, and it was a revelation. Mercator was part of a secret society, the custodians of the timeline. They weren't mystics, they were scientists, geniuses centuries ahead of their time. He wrote that he had discovered evidence of temporal echoes, information bleeding backwards from the future into the past. He dedicated his life not to mapping the world, but to creating a vessel, a cipher so complex it could carry a message from the future to the future. The shipwreck wasn't an accident. He had scuttled his own ship to hide his work. The puzzle box's final, desperate gambit to send a message. The journal contained the final key to unlock the sphere. Back in the secure lab, Julian activated it. The sphere opened, projecting a holographic image into the air. It was a detailed, terrifying simulation of a massive, coronal mass ejection from the sun, scheduled to occur in just 3 years from their present day. An extinction-level event. It was a targeted blast, aimed directly at Earth, powerful enough to strip away the magnetosphere and boil the oceans. The sphere also contained a complex equation, a way to build a planetary defense shield, a way to save the world. But there was a second file, hidden encrypted. Julian's hands trembled as he broke the encryption.
It was an audio log.
A voice, weak and filled with static, spoke from the sphere. "My name is Dr. Elias Vance," the voice said. I was a historian in the year 2142. My team discovered this technology, the ability to send information back in time. We wanted to send back warnings, knowledge. But my superiors, they saw a weapon, a way to alter the past for their own gain, to create a new history where they were the masters. The voice grew weaker. The solar event, it's not a natural catastrophe. It's an assassination. They're going to trigger it in your time to create a great reset, a global crisis that will allow their past selves, their ancestors, to seize power. I sent this sphere back as a warning, just before they found me. This is not just a warning. It is a confession. My confession. And it is my murder. The log ended with a scream and then silence. Julian and Carter stared at the silent sphere, the horrifying truth settling over them. The sphere was a message from a murdered man in the future. The impending apocalypse was not an accident. It was a planned, historical event. And then they understood. The strange accidents and obstacles they had faced on their journey to find the sphere. The shadowy figures trying to steal the map. They weren't government agents from a rival nation. They were the modern-day incarnation of the 22nd century conspiracy. A secret society, the descendants of those future tyrants who had been waiting for 500 years for this sphere to re-emerge. They didn't want to stop the catastrophe. They wanted to make sure it happened. They needed to find and destroy the equation that could stop their rise to power. The file was no longer about a historical curiosity. It was a race to prevent a murder that had already happened, and to stop an apocalypse that was now just 3 years away. They had deconstructed a 500-year-old cipher, only to find themselves at the beginning of a war for the future of time itself. The archivist's voice returns for the conclusion. Dr. Finch and Agent Carter now hold the key to humanity's survival and the proof of a conspiracy that spans centuries. But they are being hunted by an enemy that has had 500 years to prepare. The file is not closed. The clock is ticking. This case reminds us that history is a conversation, and sometimes the most important voices are the ones that are speaking to us from beyond the grave, from a future that has already happened. The anatomy of this mystery is not written in the past, but in the terrifying, unwritten pages of our own future. And so, the file on Silas Thorne is closed, but the questions he left behind continue to echo. He taught us that history is not just written in books, but is imprinted on the very objects that witness our lives. A silent story, waiting for a careful listener. What do you believe Dr. Petrova found in his final memory? And what secrets do the objects in your own life hold? We invite you to leave your analysis in the comments below. If this journey into the memory of things resonated with you, please support the archive with a like. It lets us know these forgotten files have found a worthy mind. And to be present when the next file is deconstructed from our collection, be sure to subscribe to the Marrow files and activate the notification bell. Please note, the story you have just heard, its characters, and the events depicted are entirely a work of fiction. The accompanying visuals are thematically paired to create a unique, immersive experience for your imagination. The archive is now closed.